So what's up, man?
How's it going, dude?
It's going excellent.
Hell yeah.
Good to talk and chat. We don't really get to do this often.
No, I think we're just like, it's always in passing. Or like, oh, I need this from you. Oh, wait, can you do this? It's like never just get a chance to like sit and chat, which is sick.
I do.
So.
I am definitely gonna thoroughly enjoy my time. I don't know if you know this, but like, a lot of people consider Wes to be like this legendary guy in the local scene as far as video. I'm not kidding. Legit, I'm like, hey man, like I'm getting there, but he's like, I gotta chat with Wes. We gotta see where we get to that level.
Dude, you're killing it. I gotta say too. So.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Thank you. I always try to like remember that like competition is just like it's up here really.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like we had this conversation last time how like. We tend to do a lot of stuff, not even for like the client or whatever, but just because other video guys are watching and they're like, that's trash.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, so you got to perform to a high level because other people are going to be like, yo, come on, there's no way.
There's like a part of you that like, it's like, yeah, I got to deliver for the client, but then I also got to like, I got to sneak some cool shit in there to.
The bar for the client though is usually like here.
But then you got to impress the industry friends.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, if
that
not,
takes it to
like,
here.
That's cool, I guess. Yeah, man. So that was a funny conversation because I'm always like, well, we could cut this scene out or we could cut this lighting out or not do as much work on something because then we could just move.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's like
you can make your day, but like, I gotta make it good.
Yeah. Well, I need those frames for
Exactly. That's it. You gotta get the frames, dude. The frames are where it's at. Even if you sneak one in, you're like, you talk to the AD or the director, you're like, hey, I gotta add this one thing, and they're like, it'll be great for the project. You know what I mean?
Do you have like a time where you're like, this is gonna be my money shot? I have to like stop everything, and we're gonna do it this way because it's gonna be crazy.
I've had a couple of those. There's sometimes where it's just like, you don't even know what's coming up, and you're just playing. You're like, the gaffer's like doing something over there, and you're just like, oh shit, that looked cool. Like we should do that. Hey, hold on. Like pause.
Stop the music.
Yeah. Working with some of the, like my close friends who are directors here, and you're like, hey, go tell the client that like you just turn the turret deck off for a sec. Like we're gonna just do a little adjustment, but we're gonna get this for the real because this looks sick.
Okay. So you'll even go as far as doing something that may not necessarily make it into a final cut.
Yeah,
just for something for you,
dude. Sometimes it's like, oh, this would be sick like this, and then you just do it and you roll on it for a quick second, and then you cut and you put it back to normal. I've done that a couple times where it's like. It'd be sick to do it like this, but it'll never make it past the client or like make it in the final cut, but it looks good. So
on that note, I'm glad you mentioned that because we also talk about like what a client, with all due respect, what a client would like or would prefer.
Yep.
Versus like what we know to be like a better way or a better option or a better look. So like. How do you go about that balance?
I think it's like there's a point where you gotta look at it from the client's perspective. Like they know their product and they know what they're doing and they know what they need, but they also like are relying on you to bring your expertise in and like, they hired you guys for a reason, they're expecting a certain level of quality and, there's a gamut of people like that where they're super open to whatever you want to do, and they'll let you run with it. And there's other people who are like super strict, and they're like, no, we want it like this, like the boards, and it's got to look X, Y, Z. And there's pros and cons to both, but it's just walking the line, figuring that out early on is the best because then you can, which way to push and how much you can push without
It's good to see it's not much different.
No, getting too into it. So
that's not much different in our space, I feel like, where it's like, when a client, and like in the case when I work with Cam, like he'll usually know in advance, like if we're going to have a sick project, you know what I mean? It's like the client doesn't really care. They're like, do whatever you guys want to do and make this epic. And it's like, oh man, we're about to have a lot of fun with it.
I feel like the best client is like, it's like a bridge of both because you can get, they're like, they know what they want. So it's like you have like sometimes shit just comes up. And so you need, a decision to be made. You're like, hey, do we go with this or this? Like, what's better? And they make a decision, but it's for the benefit of the project. And you're like, cool, we can run with that. That's what we wanted to. And you just, where you come to them with like the same type of thing where there's two options. You're leaning one way and, you explain it and they're like, we trust you. Like, this is, they kind of lay it out where it's like to let you make the decision, which is honestly the best kind of client.
Yeah.
And I think just doing that type of like communicating and like working with people is the best. And it doesn't apply just to filming or like client work or anything. It's just like,
Sure.
if you lay out all the info and let people decide, like they have a stake in it, they can take ownership of it, and you know, they bring their own little spice to it, which is the best.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being like, I want this light here this way, it's like this. It's like, hey, I need this kind of look. I'm trying to get, here's my end goal. Here's where I want to be. Like, help me
get there.
Work backwards from there. And they're like, oh, we got you. It's like, I've been wanting to try this crazy rig out or some shit. And they're like, oh, dude, do it. Send it. Like, we have, when the time's available, it's like perfect. Sometimes, you know, that's like the balance you got to walk where it's like, we can't. We just need to do this clean cut. Like, I need it like this now. And people are, you know, they're like, cool.
Yeah. That tends to be my struggle in shoots, where it's like the balance of time versus like quality of a shot.
Always.
And it kills, because sometimes it's like, oh, like the client can only really afford like a half a day or something. And it's like,
I think it's like every single project, there's going to be like a great shot that you're going to get. And then there's also going to just be something that you have to eat it. And I think like, don't get like, I've caught myself just getting like beating myself up on, you know, this looks like ass. Like, I can't, you know, but it's like, you can't win 100% of the time. So like, there's always going to be one that you have to eat it. And usually it's not even that bad. You know, you're comparing it to like what is in your head and what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but in reality, with like, compared to like what you're getting for the project, it fits. Yeah. And you know, depending on it, if it's a 30 spot, you're going to get it for on screen, maybe like a second or two.
Literally.
Like that's it. So.
Yeah, and the way that leads me into the way things are these days, where it's like fast pace, half a second shots, you know, quarter second, like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. It's almost like a slideshow of video, you know, and it's
for sure.
It's kind of nutty, because it's like you really sometimes stress about a shot. Yeah. I was like telling this story of this one time where it's like, oh, we're gonna film and it's gonna be this much time, and I was like, that's not enough time to do the shot, and then it ends up being like schedule fell behind to where we're shooting at the worst possible time. Yeah. And the sun's like beaming through this window that I thought I was gonna make look a certain way, and I'm like, bro, we don't have enough firepower to fight this window, so I'm literally gonna have like a blown out sun just here, and it's gonna look so terrible. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, it never even made the final cut, like just for, like you said, the cut purposes. So I was like tripping on the whole day, and then it was for nothing.
Yeah, dude. There's been plenty of times where it's like that, where you know you start falling behind or something happens, and your whole like lighting plan is thrown out the window. Especially when you don't have enough firepower, you can't bring your own sun. That's why I always stress. It's like we just have to be here at this time, then we'll be good. Okay. But you know, shit happens sometimes. Like I remember I had a shoot where exterior, you know, it was a big wide. We couldn't do, there's like no lighting you can do at like how wide we're going to be. So we had to rely on the sun being in the right spot. And like, I can't remember what happened exactly, but something would happen with the wardrobe not being the right color or something like that. It was a weird shoot. And so someone had to like go run out to a store and like wait for it to open, take pictures of like all the extra options and like bring them over. But
wow. And that,
you know, and then it's like, by that time it's like, 11 o'clock in July, like, so the sun's way over there.
Terrible.
Yeah, you're like, you just have to eat it. So.
And it's just like that location based too, because I'm like, if you know the sun's gonna be peeking through this specific place.
It was like a window. It's like we can shoot between like 8 and 9, and we'll have to get the shot and go, because like the sun is gonna be between the two buildings, and then it's
after that
it's like straight up, and like everything's flat, ugly, and
blah, so. So do you find, on the subject of time, do you find that like shoots oftentimes start kind of like rough and progressively get smoother? Like I'm trying to figure out a lot of times if like our experience is similar.
That's like the hardest. I think like that's like a universal thing that I've noticed. It's just like first shot on the first day is gonna be a long one. So like allow yourself a little bit more time than you'd expect. It's like that? everyone just
That's why I schedule like the call sheet to give us the most time
at the beginning.
It takes 2 hours just to put the camera together.
Yeah.
And then like next thing you know, the rest of the day is so much easier.
It's smooth sailing, and it's so funny because like it's like the same thing there, and then sometimes after lunch, if it's like a heavy lunch, people are coming back are like sluggish.
I feel like there's a time where like people like kind of socialize a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, kind of bullshit a little bit,
Yep.
kind of like, oh, I'm playing with this lens. What do you think about this? Then you
Yep,
start
yep.
talking about gear for a little
Yep.
bit, and then it's like, oh shit,
So
like
we gotta
it's been
go.
an hour.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to be shooting in 30 guys.
Yep.
So if you don't have like, you know, producer like an AD on your ass, like, yo,
Yeah.
blah, blah, then it's really like up to you, and then you
Yep.
gotta kind of rush and catch up, and then, you know, like. There's a lot of pivoting, I feel like, in this field. I mean, really
yeah.
in life, but a lot of times it's like you have this perfect plan.
Yep.
And like people talk about, oh, let's do like a storyboard and all this stuff. I was like, you could do one, and you know, it's good to have a guideline, but
Yeah.
generally you're gonna deviate from that at least 10 to 15%
Yeah.
in a good day.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, on a bad case scenario, like this whole delay caused this person to not be available, which now means this other thing got to get pushed for another day, and so now it's either we cut this shot or we
Yep.
yeah. So it can get tricky to still put the whole thing together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, I think having if you have a plan, right, you can at least always fall back on your plan and execute. But having a plan in place is perfect because then you can start. You know, you're like, hey, look, I know how to get this and we can get this, but this is cool and it just popped up. We should try something new here. And that's like the fun part. That's why I think like working it all out ahead of time, you have a plan, you go in, you can do it, and then you have that little thing, you have that little bit of spice you can add in.
You got a
later.
layer of freedom that
exactly.
you can
You're like
deviate a little bit.
You're like, and you know, and if you have a plan, everyone's on the same page. You know, it's been all communicated. Everyone's working ahead. You know, things are happening. Boom. Next thing you know, you got lucky
time.
and you're like, hey, we're 10 minutes ahead. Cool. Like, you know,
Yeah,
10,
can we
30
try
minutes
this?
ahead. Let's try this. It would be sick if we can do that one thing. You know.
Yeah.
So I think it's like having that fallback there, and I think like boards and like other stuff like that is super helpful for like, you know, someone who's like been in the project from like the get go, like a director and all that. They get it, understand it, but you're bringing in people, you know, costume, makeup, everyone else, like lighting and grip and everything. They're coming way down the pipeline, and so like just being able to communicate that stuff like ahead of time
gold.
is super clutch. I just worked with my buddy Shane. He did like I AC'd for him. I haven't worked. He moved to LA, so I haven't AC'd him forever. But I AC'd for him, and he like, again, it's like you never get to be on someone else's set. So like I haven't worked with someone else in a minute, and you know he had the full iPad thing. He had broken down each. It was a short spot. You know, each thing had its own, you know, board. Then it's like lens breakdown with the like Artemis scout picture, and like the Sunseeker info was in there, and you know how long it should kind of be to fit in. You know, they worked that out ahead of time, and that was super clutch. Like I didn't have any questions. It's like, cool, we're going to this location. I know we're going to be on this lens. I'll have the next one on standby.
That's
and
impressive.
That's it.
That's
know?
some
and
real
that goes out
pre-pro.
to every person on the crew. So like they all know, all right, we're going to be looking this way. It'll kind of be, you know, they don't have to be exact.
Right.
You know, it's like this is like our general area what we're going for. And I think they had the references on there too, but I could be wrong.
Like the actual location shot?
No, they had some reference like stills that they pulled from
Like
other
shot back or
shots,
something.
other videos. So they had that in there, but
Yeah, so you
just to
got
get a
an idea
vibe.
of what it looks
yeah,
like.
Yeah, like hey, we're going for this feel, which is hard to communicate sometimes just over, you know, email or text or something.
Yeah, I want mood.
Yeah, exactly. And
Define
they're like,
mood.
Yeah, exactly.
And how moody exactly is it?
Yeah, we can make a hospital real moody, but we can also make it like, you know,
Super bright and airy.
you can you can have like an image that's like bright but it has depth to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everything just all the levels sit real nice.
That's one of the main discussions I have with people that like are maybe like in the mid-level,
Yeah.
like DPing or shooting their own videos is like lighting ratios.
Yeah.
And how that like doesn't really quite come across for some people at first, where it's like, hey, you know, generally your subject you want it to be like, you know, 1.5 or one stop over,
Yeah.
whatever your background or whatever. But like it all depends obviously on the mood that you're
Yeah.
bringing. So it's not arbitrary. You don't just really throw a light and it's like, okay, good. There's light in the back. There's light in the front.
Yeah.
Everything's good. But then it's like, okay, well, how much mood do you want? Do you want the negative right outside the frame?
Yeah.
Do you want like a bounce? Do you want the
Exactly.
light to be super poppy? You know, do you want color contrast? And all those are things like that you have to figure out. I found myself enjoying more doing like painting with light.
Yeah, that's
over time.
That's like where I can't remember when it was a couple years ago. It clicked. I don't know. I was just doing like I think lighting test or something, and it just clicked. And I was like, oh my god, this is what it means. I was like, I just need to tell them I want less here. Like, you know, see how bright it is there to like how dark it is here. I need that a little less, and then they can like
Do it.
It's so much easier for you to communicate that, and then someone to the grip or electric to you know push in or pull out some bounds and like you know finesse it like that than it is to exactly tell them what to do.
Yeah, there was a moment in time, or somebody that we know that like, it was they like I mentioned something and they just looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, okay, the light in the background, right?
Yeah.
For our subject was like a statue.
Yeah.
And like the light is constant and you couldn't touch it.
Yep.
So like short of like NDing the glass that it was under, like we had to basically bring up our subject light so we can basically key down on the back by just either adding ND or whatever, stopping down or what have you. And it was like, well, how's it gonna? Well, we like the lighting the way it is now. I was like, it's gonna be the same lighting. It's just going to be more powerful, so I can dim down the back and get the statue not to blow out.
Yep.
And it was like magic in some people's eyes, and it was like, I thought this was like a pretty basic principle for people that do this like regularly, right? Like DPing or whatever. But it seems like, you know, it's a different thing when you can really like just think about it logically. Once you get it, it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything about that, so how else can I do this?
That's the biggest thing is like problem solving with that. It's like figuring out what you can control and what you can't, and then like working around that and just putting yourself in the best situation possible to like have the most control over what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you have to like ask for some crazy shit to do that, but you know, it's
that's how it needs to be. If you want
it's like, hey, like you just explain it like that. It's like, and that's the whole like communicative thing. It's like you can always try and say yes to things, and just explain what it's gonna take to get there in like the best way possible. So just you know, just being like, shit, I don't know if we can do that. Like it's gonna take us like 20 minutes to pull all this crap off the truck and try it. And it's like you can say that, or you can just be like, yeah, we can try that. Give me like 20. Yeah. We can try something out. Let me know if you like, you know, just like selling it differently is like what I've come to.
That makes a big difference.
And going back to what you were saying with, you know, just like the ratios and everything. I remember, you know, when I started, I thought you had to know like everything. I was like, shit, I gotta figure out how to light. I gotta know what that thing's called, called. All these things. I was like, you don't always need to. You don't even know the super technical. You just need to know really what each thing does and how, you know, how it affects the image. You don't even know how to set it up. You don't need to know all the technical bits where it has to be placed to get what you're looking for, you know. And that was like a learning curve for me when I first started. I was like, oh, I don't have to.
Yeah.
I'd be this like fucking bottle of knowledge.
Yeah.
And you know, like super imposter syndrome, like shit, I can't, if I go on set and I don't know this stuff, like they're gonna know that I haven't shot a lot of things or, you know, figured it out yet. Then like, you know, as I go through, it's like, oh dude, so many people don't know what the hell they're doing, but that's fine. Like if you have a vision, you know, like you have people that can get you there. That's like the best thing. It's like work with people who are better than you, or like hire people who know more in their field than you do. And you'll have a great time because you just be like, look, man, I just need, like, I'm going for this. And here are the, like, that's what, and I think that's where it's beneficial to know why, you know, what they'll need. Because you can go to bat for them ahead of time and be like, look, they're going to need this stuff. I don't physically know how they're going to do it, but like, you know, I've seen it before that we've used these and like the results I've got are great. So. You know, man, and that's when it gets like bigger and bigger things. Like that gap just gets getting bigger and bigger. Where it's like, I have no fucking clue how I'm gonna like light this crazy night scene, but all I know is like I want it here and I want it to look like this, and this is like the mood and feel. Yeah. And then your gaffer's gonna take it and run with it. Like that's the dream.
We were just talking about how Like it's so funny how like the parallels are hilarious. Like when I started, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, I gotta delve on like get movie lingo. I remember I did a shoot in Atlanta with one of my buddies, and he was like, all right, we gotta have a meeting. And I'm thinking like it's about the shoot, and this guy was literally like, all right, so just so we look professional in front of the client, speeding is like the term you use. And it was so funny. The whole thing was like, we call this this, we call this that, and he didn't even really know himself. So it was just funny. I was like, okay, cool.
And so much of that stuff is regional too. Like there's like there's Florida terms for shit. There's like Atlanta terms. There's like LA terms, and it's just funny. Like even in the Midwest, it's like people get like a rough idea of like what you're talking about, but it's just funny to like hear all the different.
Yeah, like a platypus versus a quacker.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
Little,
or somebody
little
called
things.
dirt the other day, and I was like, dirt? I'm like, I'm going to assume it's a sandbag. He's like, yeah, sandbag. I was like, oh, okay. But I've never been heard
dude, it's
called
all that. Like, again, it's just like what people, like, you know, in their region, they work with, like, you know, the same kind of people. They get their own lingo. And, of course, it's, like, overarching things. But it's just funny how little pockets of different things.
What I meant to ask you, what's been your like biggest shoot, like as far as setup, crew?
Oh, it's an NDA shoot.
Oh, okay. Well, that stops that conversation very quickly.
It's for a large beverage company.
Oh, okay.
But I can't. I wish I could show that. It's funny. I have 2 or 3 projects from last year. It's like some of the biggest I've ever done, and I can't.
I think I saw something about that where you're like, I can't even talk about it.
I can't even talk about it. I can't show them
until
for 5 years.
Oh, you can't even discuss it.
No.
You can't even say you were on it.
No.
Really?
It was yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was gonna say I know there's times you can't talk about like the internals or whatever, but yeah, you can't discuss anything for 5 years.
Yeah, and it was like fast. Like they wanted a fast turnaround, which was crazy. So you know.
So I guess on the flip side, right? Then let me ask you what your favorite shoot was, if it wasn't that one.
Okay. Oh man. It's funny, like looking back at it. So what was the one before? What was the best shoot? What was the biggest?
The largest, yeah.
So okay.
Like biggest.
I'm trying to think like the other one that I could.
How many were on that crew? I don't know if that's still NDA related, but
I'm trying to think. There was 2, so a lot. There was like 2 electrics, 2 grips. There's like a ton of art. I think there was like 5 or 6 art people. There was like crafty. Wow. I mean, I've done like music videos where there's like with the robot stuff through Dime View and like in the Bolt stuff.
Yeah.
Where there's like tons of people and there's like a seamstress for like just wardrobe. Set? Yeah. Just to like alter stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's big budget stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to think of the most fun, like one of my favorites. I'm trying to think because there's been so many that are, you know, super fun.
Were you DP on that big shoot also?
Which one?
The
music
NDA?
video? Or yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not on the music video. It was for Enrique Iglesias.
Oh, dang.
Did
they do it here?
Yeah, they did in Tampa. When was that?
Tampa's
Man, that
on
was
fire.
Like beginning of 2021, I think. It must have been.
Tampa's on fire, man. We're growing. I think that's also good for our industry here.
Yeah.
I've actually been approached by a lot of people recently, like that have moved into the area or newer, and they're actually like super talented also.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah, let's become cool because
yeah, exactly.
I was like, I know you're gonna go somewhere.
Don't make any enemies. That's not worth
100%.
it, dude. Or just like, you know, rising tide lifts all boats. You know, the more the bigger things that come in, then you know, the more exposure you'll get, the more like other people want to come in, and it just like keeps going up and up.
This is all I feel like it's a helping thing. Like you help somebody,
exactly,
and then like they remember that, and then whenever the opportunity comes where you could be hired onto something, and it's like.
That's why every time I see, like, I'm in a ton of Facebook groups that are like, oh, looking for XYZ in Tampa or Orlando. It's like, okay, I know these people are in here. I'll just like try and shoot people messages because it's always like, if they can't work it, then I know someone else, one of their homies,
will do it.
Will be able to do it, and it's just like, you know,
it's a big referral network.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think like talking to people that want to get into it or people that are newer, it's like, man, make your friends in the industry however you can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of
100%.
people want to be like, oh, hey, like, how much are you paying to do this or that or this job? And it's like, my guy, have you even been on a set? Like, there's people that have been and are like, hey, I'd love to come and help you out, just do whatever, BTS, just because they want to learn.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're gonna pay some dues about, you know what I mean? Like even just showing me that you want to be PA. Okay, well let me see you set this stuff up.
Yeah, I agree, and it's tough too. Sometimes it's like people are always like, "Oh, can I come out and set?" It's like, yeah, sure. I just like sometimes it's like I have nothing going on, or like something's come up. Just like keeping your name up there with like just like keep in contact, just keep tapping them, know, because then it's like even if it's like Instagram story reply, something's simple, because then their mind's always on like,
let's say out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
But if you do the opposite,
exactly, that's it.
You stay in somebody's forefront, and that's exactly the thing. I have some people that I'm like, they stay in constant touch, and I feel like some people feel like they're annoying by continuing to hit me up, but I'm like, dude, I'm literally just busy, and sometimes I will forget about you because you were like 500 Instagram messages down. You know what I mean? Like realistically, if you really want to stay in touch, then like grab my number.
Yeah.
Because Instagram message, like I have 10 just from today, and the person I talked to this morning, I don't even know who it is.
Yeah.
So I think staying in constant contact and building that relationship, building like a base, and not saying, hey, let's collab on something and then like disappearing for 2 months, because oftentimes that is the case, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, I mean, like you said, if there's nothing going on, there's not like how many people are like, hey, I'll do BTS on your next thing, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, cool. And then I'm like, dude, I don't have anything of my own where I can freely say, yeah, come on my set for like 2 months or something. So everything else is for somebody else.
And sometimes like I'll get brought on, like just get brought on so late in a project that a lot of those positions are already crewed up because the producer's got a network going already,
Yeah, and so you'll end up doing a job that's not even your bread and butter.
A lot of people that I know, and sometimes like I've picked up stuff where it's just like, hey, we need someone. This person's dropped out last minute for whatever reason. Like they can't make it. Can you fill in? And it's like, or we need someone like this. Can you anyone that can do it? And it's like, oh yeah, that's when it's like, let me just go through my contacts real quick. And I've had I've sent numbers out and stuff like that before where it's like, shit, our audio guy can't make it. He's like stuck in XYZ or something. It's like, do you have anyone? It's like, oh yeah, try these guys. So keeping that little thing up, just that little bit of communication helps, and
the networking is big. I mean, that's preached in like every industry ever.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what, even in life, just like staying in touch with people, building relationships, and like how powerful relationships are over so many things. I think about how many jobs I've gotten just off the fact that like somebody likes me, rather than I actually being the most qualified or the best person for the job necessarily.
Yeah, being like personal is like just being a good
good
person. It's like
it's a sale.
I know, just like working and like seeing people, it's like if you can, if you're fun and easy to get along with and like work hard, like that's like you ticked 70% of the boxes there. You're almost there, because people just like need people like that who are reliable and you get along with everyone and work hard and just be good to have. And that's like finding those good people is helpful. That's why like I think you find your when you start hearing like from like these super high up DPs and people in the industry, they find that they're the people who they work with a lot, and they tend to like keep hiring the same gaffer or same AC and stuff. It's like they found people who have a workflow that matches theirs. They get along great. It's awesome because you can like work and not have to worry about that. It's not like something in the back of your mind. You just know, my mind's got it.
And that's what you pay for. You know what I mean? Like ultimately, that's really what you're trying to pay for.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're hiring an AC, you don't want to do their job for them or tell them how they're putting the plate the wrong way. When you're paying whatever the rate is, $800 a day or whatever. So it's big to kind of develop that relationship with people. And this is the same thing. Like, if you're gonna jump into somebody's contact and immediately, and it's like, oh well, yeah, I'm gonna be this much. It's like, I probably already have your position filled, but I was like, if you're willing to come in, as a swing or something, or like, a PA or something, and show me that you can do these other things, then you know what I mean. There's always a shift, and there's always gaps. You know what I mean. You're not gonna have every person available for every single job.
No, that's like the whole thing where it's like getting like your network built up, because it's like, oh shit,
you always have to plug.
I know. It's like, oh, he's gone on this for whatever time. It's like, cool. I know we got someone else to fill in, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
So just like, and it helps to like just refresh stuff because people like to do different things differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like they all have a different process, and it's being able to work that through with people is, and just having that break just helps, you know, free up some creativity because you never know. Like you worked with the same guy for, I don't know, the past 3 jobs, and you're like, we've done the same type of thing, and it's like, let's break the mold. Let's try something different. You're like,
that's also a point that I don't consider as much. You know what I mean? And it's like my big thing is like introducing cross like network. You know what I mean? Like I have my guy that I work with all the time.
yeah,
And he's also like a DP. So
Yeah.
then I'll be like, hey, now that we're all doing a shoot together, I'm gonna bring in my PA guy that I normally have. He'll bring in his guy that he's using.
Yeah.
And then it'll be this mishmash where they're like, yo, this guy really knows his stuff. Or like, you know, I have a guy that I've been coaching. He's trying to quit his 9 to 5 and finally he set a date. So he's like literally texts me almost every week. He's like 32 days till he quits his job and goes full time. And like literally we were on a shoot and he was like, oh, continuity, blah, 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 you got to do this. And then my guy was so amazed. He's like, yo, this is a PA here being like, oh, you didn't even catch this.
Yeah.
And he's like, we got to have that guy on set forever. And I was like, those are the things that like you find your people that are like your core. You can always like source a little bit outside that bubble.
Yeah.
But I'm like, generally, like you said, you have your crew that you know aren't going to let you down, or like, you know, if they do, it's like a silly thing that you can like get past.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where things aren't going to flow perfectly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you've had a time where you're like, yo, that shot's crazy, and then you press stop and it starts recording, and you're like,
oh, you're like, oh, dumb thumbed it. You're like,
that's
dude,
me.
I've done
me.
it. Everyone's done it.
I actually almost stopped doing weddings exclusively because I got hired as a second.
Yeah.
This was long. It was like 5 years ago, and
Oh,
it was
God,
a Sony with the
dude.
button that you got to push in. It was an A7S2.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
the button was. So I'm at a wedding,
no.
dude. The bride's coming down the aisle. I got the
I can just
illest
picture
gimbal
it.
shot. I'm trying to duck underneath so the photographer can get a shot,
Yep.
and I get the nastiest shot. I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible.
And it does that.
And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, bro, I gotta apologize. Oh my, like I'm gonna give you some money back, blah, blah. So then we get to the reception, and they're doing the introductions. DJ's like, and this person, and that person, and
Oh,
this
dude,
person, and I'm
no,
getting,
no.
bro, I'm knocking them out. My boy's just chilling back because he's like, oh, this is gonna be epic.
Yeah. Did.
Beep. I was like, twice in one day. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I was like,
That was the day
I
you
was
put
like,
it down. You're like, I'm done.
oh, literally,
Hands
I was
off.
like, dude, I want to drive myself
Man.
home and refund you every dollar because this is embarrassing. So I learned that lesson the hard way that time.
Yeah,
Usually when you're at a client shoot, you can be like, let's do one more for safety and
Yeah.
just tuck it in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
You gotta hide
That's
it.
it.
But on the wedding, bro, like,
Yeah, when it's like a one shot.
yeah,
and
they're
done.
like, how
you're
is
like,
it? I'm like,
yeah.
very good.
Great. Don't worry about it. You'll see it later.
You don't touch no weddings, huh? Yeah, I was gonna say.
No
so
thanks.
did you start like with DV pretty much like immediately after school?
Yeah, that's actually a crazy story. So I was shooting downhill skating and stuff a lot. I was doing a ton of travel events. So I was doing that. That's what got me into filming in the first place, was skating and you know, wakeboarding, stuff like that. So
Similar to Cam.
Yeah.
He was on skateboarding.
yeah, dude.
Crazy.
It's like that's the intro for so many people. It's actually wild. But then I was like going through college. I wanted to drop out. Honestly, I was like this.
I heard this story.
Yeah, I did not enjoy going to college. I was like constantly arguing with teachers and professors. I was just like, this sucks. Like I don't enjoy this. Like I'm teaching myself a lot of things. It's just not where it's at. But I had every semester I just apply for scholarships, and I would guess people don't apply for scholarships. So I basically had a full ride, and so my mom was like, just finish it, get your degree, and then you have it debt free.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you're lucky to do that now. So I was like, good point. I'll finish it out. But last semester was basically all remote online, BS electives to get enough credits to graduate. So I was like, I gotta get a job or do something. Like I want to. My goal was like I want to work with better cameras and cooler stuff, and have someone else pay for it. Like that was like my initial thing. So sent out a bunch of emails and stuff to production companies all over Tampa, and I ended up getting an interview with Diamond View and Company Man. Literally one day after each other.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't know that they were talking to each other because Jeff and Rob are best friends, And so I was like, and they were competitors too. So, yeah,
Wow,
I was applied for internships at both, and then they both ended up offering me a job. And I was like, I mean, I'm just about to graduate. I'm broke as hell. I was literally like, at the time I was just running a cleaning company with my mom. So I was like cleaning gyms and like pool areas, and she was doing like the residential side. So like I'm doing college and like doing that college plus like shooting, trying to, up my game, and ended up, choosing Dying View. I was like, and for no particular reason either. It was just like, oh, they're closer to my house. Like something, I can't remember. It was like 7 years ago now. And so it's like, yeah, they're just closer to my house. So like it's easier.
Do
Boom,
you feel
done.
like
And that was that's how I got to the Dying View story.
that's funny? I had no idea about that. I heard from Ryan about your time in school.
Oh yeah.
USF film professor. Shout out Ryan Watson. He's the man.
Yeah, the only one that like made it bearable at that point in time, because our buddy, I was buddies with our friend Charlie as well.
Yes.
That's how we met in college, and we ended up both at Dying View. So it's just funny. Like,
Did
Ryan
you guys meet in college?
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like that story is, we had a whole friend group. Like his best friend is married to my best friend's best friend. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like, and I know his closest, like we've had classes together in high school.
Wow.
Like we were on the
So it
fringes
goes
of
back.
meeting like so many times, but we never did.
It's meant to be.
It's so funny. And then ended up going to college together, working the same place. Ended up roommates for a while, and yeah.
I thought you guys met at DV.
No, yeah, we met in college, and that's when I met like his other friends. I was like, we all went to high school together. Like, how did I never meet you?
So that was a
That's
small
wild,
world
man.
moment,
Dude,
I'm sure.
yeah.
What was when you were? Do you feel like working at DV like catapulted you to another level?
Oh yeah, I got to like work with some insanely talented people, like back to back to back. Like every day, I always say like DV was just like a catalyst, because you shoot so much there, and it was a blast. Like, especially in those early days, there was a lot going on, but it wasn't like compared to now, like the volume that they do, and not literally the volume, but just in terms of work. But they like, I don't know, everything was so much fun there. We're like working together, we just have like time to try shit.
Yeah.
And like, and the good thing, it's like a good and bad thing. It's like, if you messed up one little thing, it's okay, because you'll learn from it, and there's another project coming, there was a nice little safety net where you're like, you're not a freelancer. So, if you fucked up this one little thing, they're not going to hire you again. You can come back into the office the next day. Sure, you'll get, you get talked to or whatever. And that's happened a couple times, but it's just a learning experience. And the faster you can do that and learn, because the faster you'll fail, the more you'll learn.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
Fail your way to success is the
fail fast and fail often, because then you'll be,
Yeah, you'll
You
know
just
what
learn.
not to do, which is, almost
Exactly.
as important as what to do.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
what do you have anybody you look to, like any DPs that are like,
Man, I'm trying to think. Like, there's like a ton of people that I follow that are just like crazy visual style that I just love, and I don't know. Like I've been like looking for someone. Like I should start back. Like I can see like where like I've been looking and what for. If that makes sense. It's like, oh, when I started out, I'm just looking for people who make pictures and images that I like. Then it's like, oh, these people are like actually cool people as what like people themselves. But now I'm more interested in what people's processes are, because it's like, at a certain point you're like, yeah, we can make the visuals. Like I get that part, but it's like, how are you getting there? That is mattering more to me. And that's like the biggest thing. It's like, how are you like? I want to know your decisions that are leading you to this point.
yeah,
Because like that, that just unpacks so much more. It's like,
You are literally, it's like talking to the mirror.
Yeah.
Because I'm literally, it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm talking to a mirror. I'm like, this is exactly me. Like, in all the ways, the only difference is I didn't go to school for film. I went to school for 3D animation.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this shit's hard. I'm not doing this shit. And I went to work for like Hollister for like a year, and then I hated everything. And then literally, I came in here to shoot a music video, and I met Cam, and then I was doing that. I was doing the tap, and I'm like, hey, like, let me work with you on something. Hey, like, blah, blah, blah. And finally, he just sent me on something, and the rest was history. But it was like, you kind of get that big break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it like sends you to the next level of whatever knowledge or experience. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people forget, you know, and myself included, where you look at something and you're like, wow, that's incredible. I'm never going to be this good.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, you're like, this is like a crew of 30 people, my guy.
Yeah.
You're like 2 guys. It's you and the homie kind of like putting something together.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to recreate this when you have an art department.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You have wardrobe.
Man, like this is a slightly off topic, but production design and art are like the DP's best friend. Like, you can have like the worst camera, the worst glass, the worst light, but if your location and like props are sick as hell, it does like 90% of the work for you. And like, that is the best part, is when you get a great art person and a great, you know, set deck, and they all just come marry together perfectly, it's like, man, I didn't even have to do anything. Like,
I just have to point the camera at.
I know, like, there's jobs where I'm just done, I'm like, they're like, oh, thanks for a great shoot. I'm like, no, thank you guys. Like, I just had to like point the camera there, and like,
but
we
you know,
did the rest.
it's synergistic,
great.
the whole thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, the crew's probably saying a thing about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, like they're doing their piece, but I'm like, for them, it's like with the final shot, it's what sells what they did as part of that crew. You know what I mean? Like, art department or whatnot, without somebody to shoot it and make it like pop, is still just, hey, some nice props here and there. So it's cool for like everybody to appreciate the role that everybody has in this, and how like this is a team sport, really. If you want to reach like new heights, you know what I mean? There's always going to be people running around with a camera, and that's cool. I mean, there's lots of ways to get paid doing this, but like, if you're really trying to level up, I think visually, you need, you know, if not a team, a really good understanding of, like you said, location, art department, wardrobe. I recently had a music video. It was just the first one that I, believe it or not, I've shot a bazillion. But I finally was like, okay, I have this idea, and like, it was mulling in my head. Then randomly, one of my friends who shoots theme photo shoots, she builds sets for her photos. And she posted these things, and it was like some boho setup, and it was like, hey, I am renting these props. And I was like, you know, that looks like something really cool that we could use in a video. And I was like, hey, can we shoot it in the same place? Is that your yard? She's like, yeah. And literally, I was like, in my head, I was like, okay.
Was that the one with all the leaves and stuff?
Yeah,
I saw that.
And I was like, the artist needs to be wearing this. I literally was like, yo, I need you to wear, like, it needs to be like a off-white. It needs to be like a tan color. That's just the way I see it. And so he literally went out to the mall and got a whole new outfit for the very next day. And it was exactly the way my mind envisioned it. And I was like, visually, this is like the first shot that should be in my reel, because it was incredible. But only because I really stepped outside of the usual, okay, let's go shoot, to like think about things methodically, and like color-wise and color palette, and how this contrasts with this, you know what I mean? Like, what's gonna make you really pop out of this? And then I was thinking about the lighting and where it's gonna be and how I'm gonna use the light, because I don't wanna blow out his off-white jacket. So lots of things went into it, but that's all second, like, that's second nature, you know what I mean? We got that once we're there, but I'm like, the first piece, I don't have an art department, we don't have no budgets in this, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is my own thing. So it's just cool to like realize that how important that is. And like, do you know any locally?
What?
Like, art people said that? I'm gonna have to get with you, because those are like people that I'm like, if I didn't have a budget, or if I want to donate my own money, I'd rather pay somebody who can like bring or set up props that would look cool for a video, and then
there's a bunch of people in town that have like a warehouse, or not like a warehouse, but like giant storage units of just
full
like,
of stuff.
Yeah,
I need that. I need those contacts yesterday.
I will absolutely send them.
Awesome. That's actually. I'm glad we did touch on that, because it's like you said, it's our best friend for real.
There's like a bunch of things in there that reminded me of like so many other like points that I wanted to like add on. What were they?
Over here, they're like
you're
No. I have a question.
No?
Did you shoot the public spot for Diamond View with the dad and the daughter?
No, that was Miguel.
Miguel
That was a
Corteo.
good point, though. I watched that recently, and that was like a great example of if the wardrobe and the location specifically and the props were
all
not
married.
that would not look
No.
remotely similar. Like, you could light it, the same frame, the same glass actors, and if it was anything less than the production quality was at, it would not look like the way it is.
Yeah.
It was super impressive for sure.
Also makes me very happy to hear you say all that, because we tried to articulate what you're talking
Yeah.
about, like, the last time we were in here.
Yeah.
We were so brain dead, we couldn't figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
I got it. Like, I'm trying to think. There's like on the art stuff where it's just like your keys are so important, and then like, oh, it was like going on what you were saying is like you get to a certain level where everyone can do what you can do, like on a technical level.
Yep.
Everyone can do it. So like at that point and above, you get paid for your like expertise and your your decision making and your taste. And it's like it's like you said, when you come down to it, it's like that, I don't like that shirt. Like, that's like, those are the things that will like, people will hire you for that, because it's like, I like, and that's why having, I think, a body of work is a bit more important than just like one reel where you see a couple shots. It's like you see like a project as a whole, even if it's like frames or something, just to like see there's all these different things that are tied in, and then that's like super important because you have a vision for it, and that has to happen in pre-pro. It's so, you can do it on set and stuff, but it's so hard to nail. And and if you do it in the pre-pro, you give yourself the room to play on set. You're like, I know we talked about this, but like, look how this is coming through over here. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we just change it up a bit? But you have your fault. That's like, you go over there with the director and you take a look at it real quick and you're like, it doesn't work. You have your fallback plan. That wasn't like your only option,
Yeah.
So, just like that, having like refining your taste and stuff is like important. That's like the whole process. Going back to what I was saying, is like figuring out people's processes. Like, how did you get where you were going? Because I want to know why. And it's like, not because I want to copy them or like, implement that into exactly what I want to do. But it's like, I like that, but I don't want to do that type deal.
Or like just how they're coming up with, like you said, it's the decision making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, why did you choose to do this? Like, it may not be your cup of tea.
No.
But then like they might be explaining why it was this or that.
And sometimes it's like, I did it this way because we have something coming up that's more important. So I was just trying to get ahead, and I ate it on this one thing.
It's so funny I was literally gonna say that.
Yeah.
I'm like, half the time when a shot looks ass, it's because it's literally that they ran out of time, or the client was adamant that it had to be that way. And that's okay too, because you're, like you said, you're not always going to win. There's time constraints, there's budgetary constraints. Sometimes you're running with a skeleton crew and you got to make it happen, and like you're only going to be able to do, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I said this the other day, I was like, okay, somebody has a decision to hire me or Wes for the same shoot. But like, I know that we're gonna need this gear in order to make the shoot look this good. You can hire either of us, but if you literally say, "Here's a camera, have a good day,"
you're like,
"Where's my net? Where's my lighting? Where's," like, you're only gonna be able to do so much, no matter who's at the helm.
Exactly.
Without, is somebody gonna shoot it differently? Sure, maybe I'll choose to use this lens and try to use the sun at this angle, whatever. But ultimately, like, there's certain tools that gotta be provided to whoever in order to execute at a higher level.
That's the point. It's like the tools. It's like
you have to have.
It's like everyone looks. It's like, wow, you got crazy lights and expensive stuff, and it's like, man, they're all just tools. Like and oftentimes they're expensive because they get what you want faster and easier. Like, that's literally it. And it's like, not because it's
so much better. No,
it's
100%.
Just like,
like when we talk about bright lights, like, it's like, well, why do I need a 1200 over 600? I was like, you don't really, except for if you want to do this very specific thing. Do you want to shoot an 8x and get the softest light you've ever seen? Do you want to fight the sun? Or you're going to need a bigger light? And I know it's really expensive, but those are the things that you would get out of that. But it's like when somebody gets a Godox over an aperture, and I'm like, dude, it's not the, you know what I mean? It's not the arrow, it's the Indian.
You guys reminded me on this one, like going back to the process thing. I got this. We had this one shoot with this great DP from Chicago that came in. He does insane stuff. So
Put me onto that.
I was just talking to him, during lunch and stuff in the shoot. I think it was the first volume shoot that happened at View, like the first big one at the big studio. And so, I was just talking to him after it, and I was just like, hey, like, how did you get to where, tell me like your process, like what, it was a long conversation, but he was just like, I was in a similar situation. Just know when you've hit your ceiling, and know if you like how you can break through it. Because sometimes you can do that and you can push, where you're at and break through. Sometimes you need a bigger change and stuff like that. It really depends, and that helps define your process too. And like, going through that and hearing those words, I was like, okay, I think I just like got to come up with a plan, and like that was it.
That was your light bulb moment.
That was a light bulb moment. I think there's like a bunch of those moments throughout everyone's career where you're like defining points, on your knowledge curve going up.
Yeah.
Like,
and you change
this point,
you like,
yeah,
and what
exactly.
you know what I mean. Like what I liked at the beginning of when I started.
Oh man!
And not only that, the trends too,
Yeah.
because like it's something that something to be said for saying, okay, I like teal and orange or something.
Yeah.
Like okay, cool, that's standard, but it's like over time things have changed to where now highlights are yellow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
then it's like the of super saturated skins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you gotta stay on trend to show people that you can.
Dehancer look.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, bloom. Oh, I just did one. Yeah, bloom inhalation.
Yep.
That's the story right now. And that's the thing is like you got to show people that you can stay on trend.
Yeah.
And that you are trendy because you got to keep up with
Yeah.
whatever's going on. But you also should be able to explore whatever your specific taste and look
Yeah.
is in the art that you create, because that's really what makes whatever you think is
Yeah.
beautiful right now is what you should also be making on the side to say, hey,
Yeah.
maybe a client wanted this specific look, and because it's like, hey, that's what the last,
Yeah.
Publix commercial looked like. But yeah,
I think a goal like I like that you kind of it's also fun to do like the trend stuff too. Like it's like I just got to try it, because sometimes you can make some cool stuff and that can lead to another job, and then just rolls on from that. But I think too, there's something like I heard once. It's like just try and make something timeless. You can watch it now, or you can watch it like 10 years from now, and it still stands. Like it still looks good and it fits. And I think you can do that with some like trend stuff too.
yeah.
But it's just like knowing what you're doing, taking the
I think it's about a feel.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's like what you feel is good and what you want.
Yeah.
But making something like that's what I was trying to do. It's just like, how can we make this timeless? Not in the sense of like it's pristine or whatever. It's just like if I can go back, 5 years and watch this and be like, that was good. I like that shot. It's like it stands up. Like that's a goal.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. I think that happens with movies too. It's like you watch some things and it's like that was shot when, and it looks fucking great.
Yeah, I think some of the basic rules, like and when we talk about shooting, DP, and whatever it is, like we know the rules,
Yeah.
but you also got to know when to break them.
Exactly.
And I know that's cliche to say, but ultimately it's like you don't always have to shoot on the shadow side.
Yeah.
You don't always have to. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's those things that, like you said, it's the decision making, the problem solving skills that you develop over time and that you execute on set.
Yeah.
That really can make something like, man, like this looks good, even though it doesn't follow any of the normative
Yeah.
like knowledge. So how you use something creatively, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh well, we did a shoot recently, and he's like, oh, it's one of our best shots we've ever had. We put a car rig up, and literally the sun was like beaming through the window and making it look terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me a rag. I literally took like the front of an aperture softbox and I taped it on the side of the window.
Dude, yeah.
And it was like, dude, this looks. I was like, primo, and I'm like, it's a $5 like cloth.
Yeah.
And it was just all about how it was implemented. I'm sure the BTS, I didn't even want to post it because people were like, what
Yeah.
the f is this guy doing?
Dude, no, there's like, the best tool for the job is the one that gets it done. So it's like,
Love that quote.
and like, we did that before where we were in California and it was nothing. It was like, my buddy Joe Pelham, myself, and Nick Morales, the AC. And it was like us with like the director Vanessa and everything in California. And we had nothing. We had to shoot this like scene in a kitchen at night. And it's broad daylight outside. We just like started cutting out trash bags and like in the Airbnb and like, putting all of the windows and stuff. It's like, it worked.
Yeah.
But like, you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
That's,
So.
I mean, I like this whole topic because it's
Yeah.
like, if you think about it, a lot of people get hung up on, hey, we need this, we need that,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need this to make the best, like, oh, I can't wait till I get this, and literally the endless pursuit of the next piece of gear or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, a lot of people look at me probably that way because I buy gear, like, like there's no tomorrow. But for me, it's mainly just a tax write-off, and I'm just sheltering. I'm literally trying to pay nothing. So I try, but ultimately, like, you don't really have to have all the best, all the nicest, like all the Matthew stuff to create something nice. You just have to know the basic concepts of like lighting, composition. Like, dude, just sometimes composing the shot correctly is all you need.
Yeah.
Not like, oh my God, how are we gonna light this? Like, where should we put this? I'm like, dude, put the camera where the frame needs to be, put our talent in this very specific place, and have this other action happening here. And it's just like a painting that you just made from just placing the camera.
And just like be doing that, but like not sacrificing, you know, on your framing is like, sometimes it's like, oh, can we just pan over here and like, it'll make our lives easier. It's like, no, this is what I want it to look like. And I know that's gonna suck for you guys, but like, this is like what we need.
I've been there one too many times, and it's like,
And I just operated on a feature last September for a great DP from London, Pip White, and it's like, no, we want it to look like this. It's, you know, so we're gonna make it look like this.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I think, you know, knowing when to concede sometimes is the best part. You gotta know when you're like, all right,
that's when
we literally just can't do that. But like, even doing that, it's like forcing you into that little box will make everyone else be creative. It's like, no, this is the shot that we need. It has to move this certain way. It's like, okay, how are we gonna do this? Okay, let's, like, I've done one where we had to like have a phone rotate around with the camera. And so we put it on like the dolly little row piece. And so like all these arms and like gaff tape. And then like we literally like just had MC taped to the side of the like flag of the map box. And it worked out. Like, you know, just like whatever you need to do to get it to look good is like what you should do. And you see that in VTS and movies sometimes, you know, they got all the crazy toys and stuff. But then they'll just tape a light or a bounce card to a wall and just like shoot something into it. It's like, that's what we needed to get the light where it needed to be.
Sometimes I feel jank doing stuff like that, where I'm
like, I know, you're like,
I post a BTS, somebody's gonna clown me on this and be like, dude, what is that? But I'm like, you gotta see the shot, because there's sometimes there's a reason to madness. I wanted to end actually kind of circling back to this NDA piece. So I find it within myself a lot of times that where I'm at right now in life or like my career, I'm just like, I feel like I would be nervous / maybe terrified if like a big company was like, hey, we need you to DP this giganto commercial, because it's like, am I qualified? Like, I've done all this stuff and like I know how to make things look good, but it's like, you know, what do I know about what we need? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, imagine if I was put at the cockpit of like a multi-million-dollar shoot, and it's like,
that's the best place to be, because you're never going to grow if you don't, like, you know, you never grow if you don't get in those situations and push through them, because then you learn from everyone. And then it's like, you know, if you're uncomfortable, great, because then you know something is, you know you're doing something right.
That could be a costly learning experience.
It could.
Rob, I think that job might be a little bit easier than you're making it out.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, in that budget, you probably have enough crew to literally only say, I like it like this, and that's it.
It goes back to our interview. It's like just believing in yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just like...
I know that you could, and that's why tomorrow, if we had a $5 million shoot for Nike,
I'd be like...
there's no hesitation.
100% confidence.
You're gonna get some butterflies.
And I could direct one of their sets.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I just think all the time, I'm like, oh, it's just such a lot of much pressure on you, because it's like, it's a big crew usually, so you won't have to do as much, but it's like at the same time, it's on you. So if it looks bad, then it's like, oh man, I'm letting I think that's where
pre-pro just comes into play there, and it's like just going in confident, and just like, you know, don't be, you know, and it's hard sometimes. Like shit will hit the fan, and you just gotta like keep
it cool.
Because it's like if you're, you know, freaking out, people are gonna freak out.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's just, it's hard, and it's also in the midst of it, you're like, it's hard to remember that. Just I gotta keep cool, all right, you know. But I think just, you know, trust in yourself. It's like I've done everything I can up until this point, you know, and I've done it all right, done everything properly, you know, crossed my T's, dotted my I's, and I think, you know, you get to set and you're just like, we're just gonna do it, you know, and don't like it doesn't change, you know, your basics and rules don't change. that just gets bigger. The scale that you do them at gets bigger, you know? So just apply the same stuff bigger and bigger, and it'll work out, you know?
That's good. That's wise words right there about, trusting yourself and knowing that, the rules definitely don't change. It's just
the scale just gets bigger.
How much
which
money
seems
you can throw
daunting.
at something.
Exactly.
That's my thing. I'm like, what's the difference between an 8 by and a 20 by? You know, like, there's a big
30
difference.
more minutes of setup time, like, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's great, brother. It's been good.
Yeah, dude.
It's been good. We got to do this again.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed myself because it's like, a lot
100%.
of people don't always know anything about this, or like people are still learning. So I'm usually the ones like instilling into people. But I was
100%.
like, it's good to have somebody that's at my level or above that can be like, hey, this, that, and it's like, oh, cool. So me and you can like relate on so many things that it's super cool to just get to somebody to talk to that does this pretty much the same.
Yeah,
same
I mean, like it's like you can get pigeonholed, or like not even I wouldn't say pigeonholed. You get into your own lane, you know, how you like to do things, how you do this one thing and then it worked out, so you keep doing it. But if you get together with other people, you start talking, you're like, dude, how'd you do that one thing? Oh, that's how you do that? I tried it, but it didn't work. And you're like, oh, well, this is what we figured out. It's just like the cross-pollination of ideas is so good when you start getting with people.
I love that. The collaborative thing, that's why I'm like, when I do get the chance to actually follow through and telling somebody, let's collaborate on something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that you get to learn on set from other people. It's like so many things that like maybe on a real set, you're like, I'm not trying this hack. Because it's like literally like super janky. So like a client might be like, yo, what's this? But like on a non-thing, you're like, dude, and it's like, oh my God, that looks crazy. We had one time we had to light up a lamp and we used like the bulb, the aperture bulb, but that thing only fires up. So the table was like actually left dark. And that bulb was like just lighting up the sconce. And I was like, I literally was like, yo, anybody got some aluminum foil? And I literally wrapped the aluminum foil on top and it bounced back down to the table. They're like, you're a genius. I'm like, no, I'm just thinking logical. Like, where would I want to direct this light again? And those are the types of things that like a client might be like, yo, what's up with this guy asking for aluminum foil in the middle of a set? But like there, I could have the freedom to do it and it worked. The shot looked good.
It just goes back to like having those key people, your key grip, your gaffer, your first, all your department heads are like, your people say this a lot in like a lot of podcasts, but your key collaborators, because like in the beginning, those are the people who you're going to bounce off of ideas from, who are going to get the thing done. And involve it, like be as communicative as possible, because like right up like from the get-go, send as much info as you can, because they are going to have things like that they want to try, and ideas that and processes that you don't even know, that you might just find a little nugget in there that's going to solve a ton of issues that you're holding on to, that you're not letting on to. But people, that's what I say, it's like your key collaborators, they'll collaborate with you and they'll get that problem solved and figured out the best way possible. So it's important to like just brain dump as much as you can, and get the information out there, because it doesn't hurt you, it helps you in every way.
That's actually, I'll end it with that, but that's actually such a huge point of like actually collaborating, or like being open to other people's input. Like, you're the DP, but like this one guy might have actually given you a great idea, and like low key, you're gonna end up taking credit for it in a sense. Like whenever somebody sees a final shot, it's like nobody will ever know. There won't be a little sidebar that says DP, EA suggestion. But like sometimes you really gotta like, we don't know everything, and we're on a constant search of what the next big thing, nice thing, pretty thing is. So that changes. And again, once again with trends, there's people that are doing trendy stuff that I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, but like it's not necessarily in our wheelhouse. But it's like somebody might always have an idea for you that you wouldn't even have considered, because like you said, you have a process, you have what works, and it works, and people like it, so that's the way it's got to be. So if you're kind of closed-minded or closed off in that sense, like you might miss a growth opportunity or a learning opportunity to try things a little different, or like a new way of doing things that could help you on whatever future shoot you decide to be on.
Let the best idea win. That's it. On set.
Closed it out.
Sweet.
Yeah, guys, that was fucking dope, dude.